Makuhita, a Pokemon often overlooked for its round and cheerful appearance. With its plump body and friendly demeanor, it's easy to miss its true potential. But beneath that jolly exterior lies a determined fighter, ready to take on any challenge. Today, we're putting this little guy to the ultimate test. Can I beat Pokemon Omega Ruby with just a Makuhita? After my previous challenge run, a lot of you suggested that Cramorant was just too good of a Pokemon. So I'm setting myself an even harder challenge this time, by only using Makuhita. No evolutions, no nothing, just this little punching bag on his solo adventure. But before we begin, let's go over some very basic rules, shall we? I can only use Makuhita in battle, but I will need to use other Pokemon for HMs. Yes, this game still has HMs. Yay. I'm also not allowed to use any items in battle, but held items are allowed. And with those two very simple rules out of the way, let's begin. Oh, and of course, something like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, join the Discord, etc. I know people find this whole thing incredibly annoying, but it really helps out channels, so please consider doing all of that stuff. Alright, enjoy the video. The game starts off exactly how every good game should start off, with us stuck in the back of a moving vehicle. I guess that's a thing that this game and Far Cry 4 have in common, huh? Once we've set our clock, we go over and meet our neighbor Brendan, who also happens to be our rival. After searching for Professor Birch of no luck, we walk to the edge of town where we're alerted that the professor is in danger. Taking our very own Makuhita from the professor's bag, we beat up the Poochyena attacking him and save the day. Woohoo! Our Makuhita's nature is hasty, which ups speed and lowers defense, which is fine, I guess. He also has the Guts ability, which is also pretty fine. Thick Fat would have probably been better for a solo run, but I digress. I also nicknamed him Little Mac, because that's extremely funny. And I mean, Little Mac used to be my main back when I still played Smash, so, you know, I kinda have to. Anyway, we make our way over to Oldale Town, where we have our first rival fight against Brendan. My first attempt sadly ended in a loss, with Brendan's Mudkip landing a critical hit. I give it another go immediately after, and easily take care of Brandon's little Mudskipper, although it did manage to get in another crit. I sure hope this isn't a sign of what is to come. And after humiliating Brandon, we eventually arrive at Rustboro, where the first gym leader of the run is waiting for us. Roxanne, the rock-type specialist. Safe to say, I highly doubt we'll have any trouble dealing with her Pokemon. Roxanne starts the battle off with her Geodude, who goes down after 3 Force Palms. She then sends out her Ace Nosepass, who also goes down after 3 Force Palms, earning us our first gym badge. See, I told you it would be incredibly easy. First badge in hand, we make our way over to Rustturf Tunnel, where we save Pico from some random Team Magma grunt. We return her to Mr. Briny and take his boat to Dewford, which is exactly where the second gym is located. How convenient. Also, I made this stupid meme like 2 years ago and I never did anything with it, and this is kind of the only time that I can show it to you, so here. I'll admit, I have no idea why I made this, but anyway, let's go take on Brawly. First up is Machop, who would have gone down relatively easily if it wasn't for Karate Chop critting, which almost one-shot us. I decide to give it another shot immediately after, and Little Mac takes both of Brawly's Pokemon out with relative ease, which earns us our second gym badge. With our second badge in hand, we stop 2 random Team Magma grunts from harassing an elderly man and make our way over to what might just be the most notorious rival battle in the entire franchise, Route 110 Brendan. Brendan starts the battle off with his Shroomish, who immediately paralyzes us with Stun Spore. Little Mac retaliates with a Force Palm, doing about half of Shroomish's HP. It then proceeds to set up a Leech Seed on the very next turn, while Little Mac takes it down with another Force Palm. Brendan's second Pokemon, Makargo's pre-evolution, gets one-shot by a Rock Tomb, but then we get to Brandon's ace, Marshtomp, who slowly but surely whittles Little Mac down. Uh-oh. I give the battle another go immediately after, but Marshtomp still takes Little Mac out with relative ease. After grinding a couple of levels, I gave it another go, and this would have been a good attempt if I didn't lose half of my health on Shroomish. It flinched Little Mac twice with Headbutt, and if that wasn't enough, it threw in a cheeky little paralysis as well. It eventually does go down, but Marshtomp still makes short work of us. It's clearly doable at this level, I just need some better RNG. A couple of attempts later, both Shroomish and Makargo's pre-evolution go down extremely easily. The only thing left standing between us and victory is Marshtomp's incessant need to lower our accuracy with Mud Slap, but we eventually manage to hit it. And with that stupidly difficult fight out of the way, we make it to Mauville City, where the electric-type gym leader Watson is waiting for us. But before challenging him to a battle, I go out of my way to obtain the Acro Bike. You know, the only correct bike. I mean, who needs to go fast when you can be stylish? Regardless, let's show this old man what's what. Get it? Because his name is Watson? What? Get it? Watson? I'm really funny. My first attempt fell short due to two very specific things. Sturdy and Thunder Wave. Sturdy allows for Magnemite to survive attacks that would normally one-shot it, which means that it can reliably get a Thunder Wave off, which can single-handedly lose us the battle. And surprise, surprise, it very much did. Yay. My second attempt could have been much better, but of course, Watson's Magnemite got a crit, which ruined the whole thing. On my third attempt, I actually remembered to give Little Mac a Cherry Berry, which made the rest of the fight incredibly easy. Watson's entire team fell to Force Bomb spam, earning us our third gym badge. Who would have guessed that things are way easier when your speed isn't halved? Our next stop takes us all the way to Meteor Falls, meaning we need to make the journey through Route 111, 113, and Phalaber Town. I also made sure to pick up the TM for Double Team on the way, as it'll probably become useful sometime in the future. There's admittedly not much point in staying in Phalaber Town for long, since Professor Cosmo isn't even here. Well, I mean, other than the hidden nugget in the crater, of course. Why would you just leave that there? Once we're inside Meteor Falls, we help our rival battle Team Magma so that we can save Professor Cosmo. And after that comes the long trek back to Mount Chimney to stop Team Magma yet again. Yay. Admittedly, I don't know why Hoenn is so obsessed with the whole, hey, here, now go trek across the entire region again. Like, sure, having to do all this traveling makes the world feel bigger, which is a good thing, but it's just not great from a gameplay perspective. But I digress. I'm not a game designer. I'm just some random idiot who makes YouTube videos from their home. Once we reach Mount Chimney's peak, it seems that Team Magma has fully taken over, and I have to battle through a gauntlet of grunts until I reach Maxie. After a long and boring conversation, he finally challenged me to a battle. Maxie starts the battle off with his Mightyena, who we trade blows with until eventually coming out on top. Golbat is next, who immediately confuses us with Confuse Ray. We do about half of its health with our Rock Tomb, but we get taken out promptly after by a flurry of flying type attacks, as well as an unlucky Confusion proc. Yeah, let's try that again. I give it another go at level 35, just to have a bit of a better chance against Maxie's merciless team, and both his Mightyena and Golbat go down quite easily now. It's just a bit of a shame that Golbat ended up getting a crit, which nearly one-shot Little Mac. Yeah, this unfortunately allowed Camerupt to outspeed and kill us. Nice. This trend continues for a little while, with Camerupt continuing to be a nuisance, and while we do get close several times, we're just not cutting it with these stats. So eventually at level 41, I'm able to beat Maxie's Camerupt. I'll admit, I really don't like being this over leveled, but I don't think I had a real choice. Anyway, let's go and get our 4th gym badge. Alright, as you've probably been able to guess, Flannery wasn't a challenge whatsoever due to our level advantage. Both her Numel and Macargo's pre-evolution go down in a single hit, and her Torkoal goes down in 2, which earns us our 4th gym badge. I really don't know what else to add here, so yeah. And with Flannery out of the way, we make our way back to Petalburg, where we'll be facing off against Norman, the normal type gym leader, aka our dad. Norman starts the battle off with Slacking, who we one-shot with a close combat. Vigoroth is up next, and we one-shot it with a close combat as well. But Little Mac sadly falls asleep. Norman then sends out his ace, another Slacking, who one-shots Little Mac with a Retaliate. Yeah, we literally just need a Chesto Berry to help against the Yawn, and we're completely fine. And as expected, we completely annihilate Norman's team on our second attempt, which earns us our 5th gym badge. After humiliating our father, we slowly make our way over to Fortree City. I really don't have a good feeling about the upcoming gym. Winona is going to be awful. But luckily for us, we're kidnapped by Steven Stone and Latias before our fears can truly sink in. Take that, anxiety. Teaming up with Steven, we defend Latios from Team Magma's relentless onslaught. Once we've dealt with them, we're rewarded with both a free Latios and a Mega Bracelet. It's just a bit of a shame that we'll get zero use out of it since they never made a Mega Makuhita. Go figure. We resolve a hostage situation with some eco-terrorists at the Weather Institute, beat Brendan once more, and make it to Fortree City. Fortree City is home to what is 100% going to be the most difficult gym leader in this entire run, Winona. She specializes in flying type Pokemon, which completely screw Little Mac over. It also doesn't help that Rock Tomb is our only super effective move against them, which kinda sucks. Just to put things into perspective, I legitimately lost to the very first trainer in the gym, while my Makuhita is 17 levels higher than his Pokemon. I guess there's just no other way and we just have to bite the bullet. Apparently, you can just skip Winona and leave her for the end. I really wish I knew about this beforehand. Winona starts the battle off with her Swellow, who does half of Little Mac's health with an aerial ace. But hey, at least it goes down after a single Rock Tomb. Pelipper is next, who takes a little more than half from Rock Tomb while doing quite a bit of damage with aerial ace. Little Mac's Rock Tomb takes it out in the very next turn. Winona then sends out her Skarmory, who we don't quite one-shot with close combat, so we lose the battle to, you guessed it, aerial ace. My second attempt starts off with Swellow spamming everyone's favorite move, Double Team. Yay. Luckily for us, we break through it quite quickly without taking any damage. Once Pelipper is sent out, it immediately dies to a crit Rock Tomb. Skarmory takes barely any damage from Rock Tomb while doing tons of damage with Aerial Ace, and on the very next turn, Skarmory survives Little Mac's close combat with 1 health and finishes us off with another Aerial Ace. My third attempt was doomed from the start, as I accidentally clicked Knockoff instead of Rock Tomb. Oops. My fourth attempt went the exact same way as the first one, until we got the Skarmory. Little Mac's close combat crit, which one-shot Skarmory. It's just a bit of a shame that we're immediately taken out by Altaria with a Dragon Breath. I tried again and again, and, well, I could tell you about the dozens of other attempts, and believe me, that's not an exaggeration, but they all end the exact same way, with Skarmory completely walling Makuhita. I'll admit, the only way that I can see us get through this fight would be to overlevel even more. I mean, I can't rely on critical hits, as they're far too random, and I can't rely on Double Team either, because Aerial Ace just never misses. And the only other moves that would help me in this situation, Fire Punch and Thunder Punch, are locked behind the Battle Resort, which is post-game. So eventually, at level 55, instead of killing Little Mac, Skarmory decides to go for a Sand Attack, which allows us to take it down on the very next turn. And with Skarmory out of the picture, the only thing left standing between me and victory is Altaria, who goes down after just 2 Rock Tombs, which earns us our 6th gym badge. You know, I'm starting to think that you weren't supposed to solo this game with a Makuhita. Anyway, we make it to Mount Pyre, where we steamroll every Team Magma Groudon in sight, utterly destroy Courtney and her Camerupt, and obtain the blue orb all in record time. We're then told to go back to Slateport, where we watch Maxie steal an entire submarine. I hope this goes better than Ocean Gate. In response, we single-handedly raid his entire base, while also ruining Courtney's reputation by crushing her Camerupt for a second time. With the complete and utter destruction of Team Magma over with, we make it to Moss Deep City, where we'll be facing off against the twin gym leaders Tate and Liza. As you've probably already guessed, this is a double battle, which is a bit of a problem for our single Makuhita. So just to keep things in the spirit of this solo challenge, I catch the weakest Pokemon I can find as a partner, a Magikarp. There's really nothing special about him, it's seriously just a Magikarp, but it'll cheer us on to victory as it splashes around. My first few attempts all ended as soon as they began, with Lunatone immediately one-shotting Little Mac with a Psychic. Yeah, we clearly need a couple more levels. And I tried again and again, but none of my attempts got even remotely close to beating them. Admittedly, this whole bit of the game has been a bit tiring, so for both of our sakes, I'll just keep it simple. Eventually, at level 67, Little Mac manages to one-shot both Solrock and Lunatone with Knockoff, which finally earns us our 7th gym badge. As soon as we exit the gym, it quickly becomes apparent that Maxie's submarine did not meet the Cyclops' fate, as we're greeted by a giant pillar of light in the sky. Team Magma just woke up Groudon, and he's very cranky. But before we stop the world-ending threat that is Groudon, I go out of my way to pick up the Eviolite item, which boosts both the defense and special defense of any unevolved Pokemon holding it. I can already guarantee you that it's not going to help Little Mac too much, but it's better than nothing. Once we make our way down to the seafloor cavern, we battle our way through a boatload of Magma Grunts, suffer through a certain puzzle, and find Archie and Maxie arguing at the bottom of the cavern. In his state of anger, Maxie challenges us to a battle. He starts the battle off with his Mightyena, whose weak stats allow us to easily set up a couple of double teams, which basically trivialize the rest of the fight. None of his Pokemon stood a real chance, not even his Mega Camerupt. All that anger for such an easy fight, you'd think he'd be more prepared with his plan in full motion. But with Maxie out of the way, we have a significantly bigger problem to deal with. A giant, prehistoric dinosaur is on its way to Sutopolis City.
It looks like Godzilla, but due to international copyright laws, it's not.
We meet back up with the gang at the Cave of Origin, where, after donning the Magma suit, we soon find ourselves face to face with the legendary Groudon. We catch a ride on its back to the deepest point in the cavern, where we watch it undergo Primal Reversion. We then defeat Primal Groudon in single combat and save the world from a devastating drought that would have doomed us all. I mean, the heat coming off of him literally evaporates water. Oh, and we also, for whatever reason, took off our Magma suit while doing all of this. Don't ask me why. I guess May just has a death wish. Anywho, let's go and get our 8th and final gym badge. Wallace starts the battle off with his Love Disc, and oh boy, I never thought I'd say this, but I actually struggle to deal with it. Wallace seems to be incredibly keen on using both Attract and Sweet Kiss over and over again, while slowly but surely whittling us down with Drain Kiss. This, paired with the constant confusion and infatuation, makes for an extremely annoying combo that could have taken us out if not for Little Mac's knockoff finally going through after way too many attempts. Admittedly, the rest of Wallace's team is nothing to write home about, as Close Combat one-shot them all, earning us our 8th and final gym badge. I can't believe I struggled with Love Disc of all things. We cruise through Victory Road, with the only real challenge being that my stupidity doesn't mess up any of the puzzles. I also really appreciate the fact that the trainers here use Pokemon from Generation 4 and onward. It's a very minor thing, but it's kinda neat. We eventually make it to Wally, and would you believe me if I told you that he was easy? Would you believe me if I told you that I beat him on my very first try? Well, I would love to tell you that you're right, but I would almost consider Wally the hardest battle so far if it wasn't for Winona's existence. Most of Wally's team isn't that difficult to deal with, as Altaria, for example, can't do much outside of Aerial Ace, and it's quite weak to Rock Tomb. Both his Delcatty and Magneton lose to close combat. And his Roselia? Well, it can't really do anything outside of poisoning me, which happens to be beneficial to Little Mac because of Guts. No, the real problem with Wally's team lies with his ace, Gallade. Gallade is a psychic fighting type, which means that it resists most of our moves, while we're weak to it, so we're already at a pretty big disadvantage. His Gallade also knows Psycho Cut, which hits very hard, especially with Gallade's high attack stat. Oh, sorry, that's regular Gallade. I forgot to mention that Wally's Gallade Mega Evolves, making it even stronger. As you've probably guessed, Little Mac stands absolutely no chance against this behemoth, even though we're 22 levels higher. I tried it again and again, but every single attempt ended in the exact same way, with Gallade coming out on top. I genuinely have over an hour of Wally attempts, and that may not sound like much, but keep in mind that my very legitimate Nintendo 3DS has access to the speed up button. It's real. I promise, Nintendo. Please, don't sue me. So eventually at level 84, we barely managed to come out on top, as Wally decides to go for a close combat instead of a second Psycho Cut, which leaves Little Mac at a slither of health. One last knockoff finishes the job, crushing a sick child's hopes and dreams. Wally being difficult. Now, that's not a string of words I ever thought I'd say out loud, but here we are. I guess you could say he Wallied me? Get it? It's like walled. He walled me, but his name is Wally, so Wallied? No? Alright then, I'll stop. With Wally out of the way, it's time for the Elite Four, and admittedly, I'm not feeling too optimistic about this whole thing. As you can see, Little Mac's stats are quite poor outside of his attack stat, and it also really doesn't help that Guts hasn't been doing a damn thing this entire run. I really should have reset for Thick Fat, especially with Glacia coming up, but oh well. But do you think I'll be able to beat the Elite Four? Let me know down below. And while you're down there, go and like and subscribe and join the Discord. You know, do the thing. Alright, let's get started. Sydney's up first, and his entire team goes down to the classic close combat spam, while we avoid literally everything thanks to Double Team. Phoebe's next, and we manage to lose our first attempt due to a cheeky Toxic. But on my second attempt, her entire team falls to knockoff. Next up is Glacia, and oh boy. Glalie consistently sets up Hail on turn 1, which ultimately screws me over due to the constant chip damage. It also really doesn't help that her Frostlass has the Snow Cloak ability, which raises its evasion when it's hailing, which, as you can imagine, makes things even more difficult. It takes me a few attempts, but we eventually get through it with the help of our old friend Double Team. See, I told you it would come in handy earlier. And with Glacia out of the way, we have one Elite Four member left standing between us and the champion, Drake. My first attempt goes rather well, with most of his Pokemon unable to hit me thanks to Double Team. Unfortunately though, his Flygon manages to land an Earthquake, which takes us out. I keep giving it my all, but Drake is just another one of those fights where I really can't do much outside of praying to Arceus that Double Team does anything. And even then, it really doesn't help that his Altaria is my best setup option, as it's able to slowly take me out with both Moonblast and Aerial Ace. I honestly didn't expect Aerial Ace to still haunt me after Winona. Even at level 94, I have yet to see Drake's Ace. It's genuinely absurd to me how his Flygons keep managing to hit me even with +4 evasion. Eventually at level 96, I managed to get through Drake's team. We're finally able to somewhat tank any attack that comes our way while taking out his Pokemon one by one. And with that gauntlet of elite trainers out of the way, it is finally time for Little Mac's final opponent in the playthrough, the champion of the Hoenn region, Steven Stone. And don't let his appearance fool you, he's a force to be reckoned with, no matter how much he looks like a Larry predecessor. Steven starts the battle off with Little Mac's longtime rival, Skarmory. We barely do any damage with Rock Tomb, while it does a tiny amount back with Aerial Ace, but luckily for us, we're able to take it out with a close combat on the very next turn. Claydol is up next, who does way too much damage with Extra Sensory. Little Mac, meanwhile, does a little less than half with Knockoff due to the Reflected setup last turn. Sadly, even with +1 evasion, we're taken out with yet another Extra Sensory. The next few attempts all ended as soon as they began, as I had to reset every time Little Mac got poisoned by Toxic. Eventually, I had this run where I managed to set up 2 double teams against Skarmory while avoiding many Toxics. Once we've set up a bit, Little Mac takes it down with a Rock Tomb and Close Combat combo. When Claydol comes out, I use it to set up the last few remaining double teams, and then take it out with a couple of knockoffs. Steven sends out his Aggron next, who does basically nothing with Iron Tail, while Little Mac takes it out with another knockoff Close Combat combo. Both Steven's Credillia and Armaldo share the exact same fate, getting one-shot by Close Combat. When you think about it, it's almost poetic in a way. It's finally time for Steven's ace, Metagross, who he immediately Mega Evolves. We do a little over half with Knockoff, but we then get one-shot by Zen Headbutt. Yay. My next attempt went pretty much the exact same way up until Armaldo, who took Little Mac out with 2 Crush Claws. Granted, I misclicked and went for Knockoff on accident. After a couple less than noteworthy attempts, we finally make it to Metagross again. We do a little less than half with Knockoff, while Metagross misses a crucial Zen Headbutt, which allows us to land the finishing blow on the very next turn. Which means that, yes, you can absolutely beat Pokemon Omega Ruby with just a Makuhita. What a weird run. I wouldn't call it extremely difficult per se, but man, some fights were brutal. Hell, thinking about Winona and Wally still keeps me up at night. I probably didn't have to overlevel as hard as I did near the end, but the last few fights just felt impossible without it. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and if you happen to enjoy the video, I would appreciate it if you left a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And if you hated the video, well, just go and do the opposite. Go and leave a dislike, unsubscribe, and go and take a comment, I guess. However that may work. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and if you happen to have any ideas for future Pokemon runs, just let me know down below. Regardless, I hope you have a very good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, night, whatever time it may be for you. Crap, I forgot about the post-credit Brendan fight. Yeah, I lost incredibly hard, so I guess Brandon is the new champion now. Congratulations, Brendan!